Yes, people, hope you're well. Please like, share and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. So let's talk about last weekend, the last Crescendo. Honestly, the best fight card of my lifetime. I don't think I've come across a better fight card in my whole life. I'm going to take a few moments just to talk about the fight card in more detail and just reflect on what was an absolutely terrific night. For most fights anyway. There was a few question marks here and there, and I'm sure we'll get into that a bit later. But let's start off with Joshua Buatsi and Callum Smith. So in my previous prediction, I predicted Joshua Buatsi to win. I wasn't 100% confident because a lot of these fights were 50-50s. So I couldn't say with any confidence one man was going to win. But the reason why I thought Joshua Buatsi was going to win was because, number one, he was going up the mountain and that desire was there. He wanted to become world champion. I started to question whether Callum Smith wanted to go to the top of the mountain again. Bear in mind, this is a Callum Smith who's already been at the top of the mountain. He was WBC super middleweight champion. He was Ring magazine champion at one stage. He faced Canelo. He faced Beterbiev last year. And to be honest with you, after that Beterbiev fight, I thought he'd retired because he had gone silent, radio silent. But I was completely wrong. Callum Smith won that fight. The scorecards were 113-115 to Callum Smith, 110-119 and 112-116. I think the fight, if I'm honest with you, was more of a 112-116 kind of fight. I thought Callum Smith won, and it was quite in the sense that it was quite convincing or quite clear that he won that fight. In terms of the fight itself, Buatsi started really well. I thought that he dominated those early rounds. I thought that he was getting into his groove. He was trying to be as close as possible to Callum Smith because we know Callum Smith fighting that range is a problem. And he done quite well. I think in the middle rounds, that's when Callum Smith started to get into his groove more and more. And it kind of felt, I was starting to ask the question, Joshua Buatsi, you need to do more in those middle rounds. He was starting to lose the flow of it. He's starting to lose control of the fight in that sense. And at the same time, he's starting to look like a sitting target. I don't know if you saw that, but he started to look a bit like a sitting target. He wasn't really moving his feet, wasn't really moving his head. And I started to think to myself, you're getting caught with some shots here. But Joshua Buatsi had a great chin. It was a fantastic chin, but you don't want to get caught with those shots too much. And he was getting caught with a lot of hooks. Again, shots to the body, shots to the head. And then by the time the 8th round came, 8th or 9th round, I think it was Virgil Hunter, his trainer, was saying, you got to knock him out. You're losing the fight. You got to knock him out. And it wasn't to be. And Callum Smith won the fight. So in terms of next steps for both fighters, I think Joshua Buatsi needs to go into the fight with Anthony Yarde. Like, let's just stop the talking, both fighters. I don't want to hear anything about promoters, contracts, different paths or whatever. We just want to see the fight, and I think it's the fight that we need to see next between both men. For Callum Smith, his journey goes on in the light heavyweight division. I don't know at the moment if I want to see him against Bivol Beterbiev right now, I'll be honest with you. I think they should face each other, and I'll get onto that in a moment. But I think a fight against Benavidez will be good. Benavidez, light heavyweight fighter who just beat Dave Morrell. I think that will be a good fight. 2 punches, and I think it will be a great night of action if we saw that. So that is Joshua Buatsi versus Callum Smith. Let's move on up the card, and we had Zhilei Zhang versus Caballero. Now in this fight, again in my previous video, I said Agit Caballero's going to win, so I've got that one correct. Ka-ching, which is brilliant. The scorecards at the end of the night were... Actually, sorry, not the scorecards. Caballero beat Zhilei Zhang in the 5th round as a KO, which was a body shot. I thought Caballero was going to win for the simple reason that I thought he's a really good body puncher, and his output and his pace, the work rate's really good by Caballero. I thought that if this fight was going to go early, it would be Zhilei Zhang, but I couldn't see it going early in that sense. But I really questioned Zhilei Zhang's tank. And to be honest with you, that tank literally left him by the 2nd round. Zhilei Zhang started well. Caballero was down in round 5, to be fair. But his tank, Zhang's tank, isn't there. Just not there. Caballero done what he had to do, and he's a real underdog. You know, he's a real underdog of the heavyweight division. But yeah, I have to say, I don't know what Zhilei Zhang does next, if I'm honest with you. Maybe he goes into fun fights. Maybe faces guys where he makes a bit of money. But in all honesty, I don't know what Zhilei Zhang does next. He's taken a few losses now, to be fair. That was his third loss. He lost against Joseph Parker. Obviously, he beat Deontay Wilder and now has lost against Ajit Kabayel as well. I don't really know what he does next. But for someone like Ajit Kabayel, it was a great win for him. His journey goes on. And remember, this is Ajit Kabayel who beat Makhmudov, who everyone thought was going to be the next kind of big heavyweight after Fury and AJ. He beat Frank Sanchez as well. And now he's beat Zhilei Zhang. I think that he should... If he doesn't face Joseph Parker next... Maybe some kind of final eliminator for the WBC belt or something along those lines anyway. I think that's the kind of direction that he should go on. But it was a great win for Kabayel. His journey continues. And yeah, it was a good win for him. Really, really good win for him. And it was an entertaining little scrap that happened. Let's move on to Ortiz versus Madrimov. Now for this fight, I got this prediction wrong. I thought Israel Madrimov was going to win. If you remember Madrimov against Terence Crawford, yeah, he lost the fight, but he looked good. He looked good. He lost by a couple of rounds also. And I thought to myself, do you know what? Madrimov might have a little bit too much for Ortiz. And at the same time, if you remember Virgil Ortiz's last fight against Bohachuk, Ortiz was down in rounds 1 and rounds 8. So I thought, do you know what? I think Madrimov might have just a little bit too much experience. I thought his style might be a problem for Ortiz, and it might be one of those ones where Madrimov wins, possibly a late stoppage or a points win. And again, I was wrong with that. I mean, that's how great this fight card was, right? 50-50s across the board. The scorecards were 115-113 to Ortiz Jr., 115-113 again, and 117-111. The fight was... when I looked at that fight and I reflect on that fight, I think that fight was about whose style would overwhelm whose style. So I thought Madrimov started really well in that fight. Moved around, got his shots off. It was good. But as those middle rounds came, you saw that Ortiz was starting to control the fight. His style was starting to overwhelm Madrimov's style. And I thought it was one of those ones where Madrimov he just kind of... I'm not saying he crumbled, and that's not the word I'm going to use, but you could see that Ortiz's style and his will was starting to overpower Madrimov's style. And Virgil Ortiz Jr. looked absolutely terrific. I mean, those body punches, the shots to the head, the way he was breaking down Madrimov, it was brilliant to watch. He's a problem at the 154 division. He just looked really, really good in that fight as the fight went on. In terms of what's next for both men, I would say Virgil Ortiz maybe looks for a title shot. I really think he could actually make a run for the title shot. For Madrimov, the loser, I think he licks his wounds right now and kind of maybe tries to navigate how he comes back in the 154-pound division. I'm starting to think as well, maybe his style might need to change a little bit. There was a lot of moving around the ring, which is fine. But again, I don't know whether the judges in a fight like that would go for the guy that kind of fights with the back foot, moves around the ring in that sense. I think he kind of needs to stand his ground a little bit more. I don't know about you. Let me know what you guys think. But I thought he just needs to stand his ground just a little bit more in that sense. So that is that fight. Let's move on. And this was an interesting one. We had Carlos Adames, Hamza Shiraz. I know, guys, we talk all the time about judges' scorecards, but this is another one where we talk about the judges' scorecards and think to ourselves, honestly, what were you doing? What were you watching that night? It was a split decision draw. Scorecards were 114, 115, 118, 110, and 114, 114. Honestly, I like Hamza Shiraz, but honestly, Carlos Adames won that fight. Honestly, he did. It's not even one of those ones where you think it was a close fight. I think Carlos Adames, his style was just a little bit too much for Hamza. And fair dues to Hamza, it looked like he had like a broken hand, or he definitely kind of injured his hand in the fight. But this fight wasn't anywhere close in terms of being a split decision draw. Hamza started well. He started well. It didn't start too bad. But again, he was kind of boxing off the back foot. And he kind of felt like he was a shell of himself as the fight went on. And Carlos Adames just literally kind of went to work in that sense. And when the fight was over, I literally thought Carlos Adames has won this fight. But when I saw split decision draw, I was thinking, what on earth is going on here? Let's talk about a rematch. I don't see it being any different, if I'm honest with you. I think Carlos Adames wins again. What does Hamza Shiraz do? If I was in his team, I would take a look at the weight. I know Frank Warren spoke about the weight being a bit of an issue, potentially. I'll maybe take a look at that. But also, I think, yeah, first of all, look at the weight. And then maybe a couple of warm-up fights. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think, if I'm honest with you. I think the weight might be an issue. I think it might be time for him to move up. Unless there's a big money fight at £160. I think maybe it might be time for him to kind of go up a division 168 and see what he can do there. Let's move on to Shakur Stevenson vs Josh Padley. Now, if you remember, Josh Padley was a late replacement, came in on Tuesday. What an amazing story that guy has. He's a builder. I don't think he's going to be a builder for much longer, if I'm honest with you. And he got the call on Tuesday to ask to come and face Shakur Stevenson because Floyd Schofield it was a medical illness that he had, and he had to drop out the fight. I hope you're feeling a lot better now. It was a fight where Shakur Stevenson won the battle, but I think Josh Padley won the war. What do I mean by that? Shakur Stevenson won the fight. And if you remember, Shakur Stevenson had Padley down 3 times from a body shot in the 9th round, and then Josh Padley's corner threw in the towel. But Josh Padley won the war in the sense that there's a guy that comes in with 4 days' notice and takes Shakur Stevenson to the later rounds. He really put on a good performance that night. It's one of those ones where he kind of gave a good performance of himself. And he definitely put himself in the shop window to have other big fights, potentially on Riyadh season. Maybe one of the promoters signing him or whatever. But he done well for 4 days' notice. For me, although Shakur Stevenson won the fight, Shakur Stevenson was sharp. And he got into his groove as the fight went on. But honestly, when I was watching it again, I kind of thought, and then when I even watched it live, I was thinking to myself, Shakur Stevenson, I want to see more from you. You're the world champion. You're arguably in the pound for pound list. You've had a full fight camp. I want to see more from you. I want to see you put your combinations together. I want to see you come forward. I want to see you break down Josh Padley. And I actually thought initially that Shakur Stevenson will win within the first 6 rounds. When we got to about round 6, I'm thinking to myself, Shakur, what are you doing? What on earth are you doing? I want to see more. I need to see these combinations. I need to see you come forward. And as I was watching it, I was speaking to a few friends, and when they were talking about Shakur Stevenson, it kind of dawned on me, maybe that's the reason why he gets a lot of stick, because he's not that kind of come forward fighter. He's a thinking fighter. And although he puts his combinations, and he's very precise, he puts his combinations together really well, I just kind of thought to myself, yeah, I just want to see you come forward and kind of break a man down, take him out, break him down. He done it in the 9th round, and it was good to see that he won. I thought to myself, phew, okay, cool. At least he didn't go 12 rounds. But I don't know, I just want to see him do a little bit more. Maybe he'll do a little bit more if we saw a tank fight. Or he fought someone who was, with all due respect, a level up from Josh Padley. But I just want to see a little bit more. But obviously, Shakur Stevenson wins. The journey continues with Shakur. And we'll see what he does next. Josh Padley, I'm sure he's going to be in the ring very soon on a Riyadh season card or something like that. But he definitely gave a good account of himself. Okay, let's move on to the heavyweight division again. Josh Parker versus Bakole. Okay, where shall I start with this? I always knew Joseph Parker was going to win this fight. I always knew it. The moment Bakole came into the picture, I knew he was going to win this fight. If you look at one of my previous videos that I've done a few days ago, I said there is no way that I can see Bakole winning this fight. I know everyone got excited. Oh, it was Martin Bakole. Some people were saying, you know, this guy is the boogeyman of the division. Who knows what's going to happen? This guy could beat Bakole. It's going to be a shootout, etc., etc. I didn't think anything of that sort. I really didn't. And I've got previous videos to back me up on that. And it really wasn't a great fight. It wasn't. Bakole was down in round 2, and to be honest with you, I'm going to do another video on it because I was kind of disappointed in Martin Bakole. I'm not too sure if you saw the social media photos that came out roughly about 10 days ago now. Martin Bakole, he was in the Congo, and he didn't look fight fit, and he just didn't look fit. So what made people think that Martin Bakole was going to come in there and do something? Only God knows. I don't know. But Joseph Parker won in round 2. I think Joseph Parker needs to have a world title shot next. I think it should be against Usyk. I know Daniel Dubois pulled out the fight because of medical illness, but I think Joseph Parker should face Usyk next. Let's not delay that. And I think Martin Bakole, he faces Efe Ajagba in May. Let's see what happens next. But it might be a case where he's going to have to build himself up. But I'll do another video on Bakole shortly. I want to move on very quickly. I know that I've been going on for a while. Beterbiev versus Bivol, the main fight on the card. What a brilliant fight that was. Again, it was even better than the first fight, in all honesty. It was a fantastic night of boxing. Legendary fight. Absolutely legendary fight. In the end, Beterbiev won, and it was a points decision win. It was 113, 115. 112, 116, 114, 114. I could see why it was 114, 114. I actually scored it a draw, but I'm not disappointed if it went a round or 2 either way, because it was that close of a fight. I thought Beterbiev started really well. He was putting on the pressure, and it's like something's like switched in the fight, where Bivol in the middle rounds, he then started coming back, and it was an amazing performance by Bivol in those middle rounds. He started working on Beterbiev's body, and the way that he was moving around the ring. But when he needed to stand firm and trade, he traded. When he needed to move round, he moved round the ring, and he started to make Beterbiev look really old in the ring at some stages. But it was a great fight to watch, because even though I'm saying Bivol done really well in that sense, Beterbiev wasn't out the fight. There was a few times in the fight where it was so close in terms of Beterbiev attempted like punches at Bivol, where like an inch or two, literally an inch or two, either side, it could have taken out Bivol. And it was such an amazing night of boxing. Kudos to both men, because they fought absolutely brilliantly in that fight. Near the end of the fight, I think Beterbiev's trainer, you can please tell me if I'm wrong, if I remember correctly, the trainer was like, "You got to knock out Bivol." That's how well Bivol was doing in the fight. But it wasn't to be. Bivol now undisputed light heavyweight champion. We need to see the trilogy. We need to see the trilogy. I don't want to see anyone face anybody else in the Artur Beterbiev and Dimitri Bivol. We need to see them face each other. Who is going to take the victory in the third fight? But I'll stop there. Again, as I said, a brilliant night of boxing, because I know we're going roughly about 20 minutes in. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'm going to do a video on Bakole shortly and put that out live. And until next time, guys, peace.